trials and tragedies, as we talked about earlier, they don't discriminate based on what school you go to. They don't discriminate based on your skin color or what side of the tracks you grew up on. The rains fall on the just and the unjust. Trials and tribulations and tragedies come, and we all have a story. Every person on this planet has a story. And that really is what has helped us to join as women and even with Hope Propalooza. It's just saying, you know what, we understand each other. You know, that we understand. Our families have faced divorce. Our families have faced addictions. Our families have faced some of the same trials and tragedies that you have faced. And so, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't realize, you know, that some of my greatest tests would be what God uses as my testimony now. And I'm so in awe of God and where He has taken me. And so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story. My mother quit school when she was 16. And she, she lost her mother in a tragic accident when she was 8. So I think that kind of just catapulted her. She wanted to have a family, and she wanted to, I think that was part of her coping mechanism. So she wanted to get married. So she quit school at 16 and got married to my father. By 17, she was pregnant. But by 18, they were getting a divorce. My father struggled with alcohol and drugs. It's an unfortunate battle that he still deals with. But you see, when they separated, I was an infant, so I don't really remember all of that. But what I do remember, though, is that when my mom remarried, her second husband was the only man that I knew, and I called him Daddy. And when I was about 5, I think my mom was preparing me to go into kindergarten, and we lived in a very small community. I didn't grow up in Opelousas, but we lived in a small community, and she was concerned that I would go to school and someone would tell me, that's, the man that you're calling Daddy is not your dad. So I remember very vividly, she sat me down on the foot of her bed, and she told me, that, okay, this is not your father. And of course, I don't really recall everything, but I actually remember sitting there with her. It was kind of just, I guess, such a shock to my little system. I didn't know. And so, but that's when all the questions started. Like, well, who is my father? And where is my father? And why wouldn't he want me? And so little did I realize that my identity and who I was believing myself to be started being questioned at that very time. Because as a child, when you start feeling rejection, you think, well, I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy to be loved. What is wrong with me? Well, about that same time, I was starting school, I realized that I could do something to feel good about myself. And I could do really well in school. And so that started like this drive. Like I said, I was little, but I can still remember probably like in the 2nd grade, winning my first awards. And I would go in my room, and I had some shelves over a desk, and I would put all of my trophies and all of my ribbons and all of my medals in, and I would look at that and I would say, okay, now maybe that's going to make me worthy. Like, somebody, they'll have to love me, because look at all that I'm doing. I'm working so hard, but I was working to earn love and not understanding that just because I was made in the image and likeness of God, that's what made me lovable. Well, the praise and the accolades and all of those things continued, but it was never enough, because the world will never satisfy us. And so, I continued on. My identity was all in my performance. And my father, my biological father, actually would come sporadically. I can remember him coming, and he would he worked offshore for a while, and so he made good money. And so when he would come, he would want to give me all these lavish gifts. I remember one time I told him I wanted a fur coat, and he showed up with a white rabbit fur coat. What was like a 3rd grader going to do with that? But the problem was that there was no consistency. He bought me a trampoline too, and I remember crying until dark one night because he said he was coming to get me, and he never did. And I sat on that trampoline all night long waiting for him. And it starts to make you, like I said, you continue to question, well, why? Like, why am I not being loved? But now that I look back, the drugs in his life are worsening. You see, he started out maybe with alcohol and marijuana, but that went to cocaine, and then it went to crack. And he really spiraled downward. He's only in his 50s right now, but if you looked at him, you'd think he was 80. It's a really sad life. But along the way, he was also married 5 times. He liked the ladies. But it is with his 3rd wife, he had another child. He had another daughter. And that was really another area that was really hard for me because, well, to the degree that he could, he saw about that daughter. He paid child support. He visited her. He saw her. So then it was like, ugh, like another, knife in the stomach. Like, well, why her? Like, why would you accept one child and not another? So all of that pain, all of that hurt, all of that rejection just kept driving me harder and harder and harder. Well, in the meantime, I was actually adopted by my mom's 2nd husband. Because, my real father, he didn't pay child support and he didn't do all that. So he didn't contest his rights, and I was adopted. And I can say that I'm very thankful for that adoption. My adopted father, did provide financially for me. He let me be in dancing and all of that. The problem was that he and my mom had a very strife-filled marriage. You never knew when you were coming home if it was going to be World War III or if there was going to be peace. Sometimes it was good. I can remember times that it was okay. Other times it was very, very hard. And the problem was that when they were arguing, I got put in the middle of it because my mom wanted me to side with her and not with him. And there was all of this confusion, all of this craziness, and then I would get the lashings out, from him. Oh, well, you're just trash like your father, like your drug addict dad, or you're just this, or you're just that, all of that. Ugh. And so, by the time I got to my senior year in high school, the emotional and verbal abuse was just so, I just couldn't handle it anymore. Like it had gotten to a breaking point in my life. And so I went to live with my mom's parents, with my grandparents, and that's where I finished high school. And, through all of that time, like I said, with my family, I was still doing well in school. I was a 4.0 student. I was the head cheerleader. All of those things. And so no one really knew. I did everything I could to not go home at night. Like if I could be in FBLA and then I would go straight there to cheerleading and then I'd go to track and then I didn't want to get home until like 10 o'clock. Like, okay, fine, I'm home and then I'll leave tomorrow morning and go back to school. That's how it was. Well then, when I left, when I finally said I had enough, and I went to my grandfather and I spoke with him and I said, I have to come and live with you. Well, then it all broke loose. Because then now, my parents got really angry with me. Because now it didn't look like everyone was, well, why are you leaving? I thought it was good. I thought it was wonderful. And it wasn't. And so then they signed their rights away. I got a letter in the mail saying they had emancipated me and that I was awarded the court. Oh, so I'm saying all of it, and listen, I can say now that I forgive them and I love my parents. I'm telling you this just as a fact, like just how rejection can happen over and over and over. And so then here I am again. Okay, Lord. Well, I didn't really call out to the Lord at that time. I didn't know him like I know him now. But I was rejected again. And I said, okay. So, what I found out that I could do? I could just hide my past. That's what I thought. I'm just going to not talk about my family. Because when I graduated from high school, I graduated top of my class.
Wow.
I I got a scholarship to college. I said, I'm going to college and I'm not looking back. And I talked very little about my family. It was just much easier to hide it and pretend like it never happened. And so when I got to, even in college, though I was still, everything was still performance-based with me. I did everything I could in college. I was very involved, which I thank God for now. I look back and I say all of those things helped me, to grow into the woman that I am now. But I graduated from college. Again, I graduated at the top of my class. I'm an occupational therapist. But what I realized? That when you don't know Jesus and you get an education, you're just an educated fool. Really, that's all we are. We're just a fool. We took the degree that we can hang on the wall. But I was empty. I was so empty. And I was so dying inside. Like none of that. None of the, like I said, the praise or the awards or any of that will ever fill us. And so I was still kind of hiding from my past. And my first job out of college brought me back near home. It brought me to Evangeline Parish at the hospital in Mamou, Southboy Medical Center. And if you know the metropolis of Mamou, but that was my first job. And I did therapy in the hospital in the mornings, but in the afternoon I would go to the psychiatric unit. And I would do group therapy there. And one day, lo and behold, I walked into that psychiatric unit and my father is in there. Wow. The father that I've been hiding from all these years. And I didn't want anyone to know. There was also an addiction unit. So he had been admitted, and I want to crawl under the table. Because he's telling her, that's my daughter! That's my daughter! What? No! The daughter that you didn't want, but now you're telling everybody that I'm your daughter? And I ran into the bathroom. And I locked the door, and I hit my knees on that bathroom floor. And I said, dear Lord God, you have got to help me. Because I was embarrassed. If I want to be truthful, I was completely embarrassed. All right. I was angry. I was hurt. I didn't want to look at him, let alone speak to him. And yet I had to face it. I had to go in there and tell all my coworkers that this man was my father. And it wasn't easy. And that was 15 years ago.